quick shout out to our sponsors, Manscaped, who is trusted by 4 million men worldwide, and you can be one of them by using our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and type in BOTN for 20% off plus free shipping. So head over there and support Manscaped, support the channel, and support your balls.
Hello and welcome to the Back of the Nest match report. I'm not Chris Hamblin and Hambo isn't presenting the show. I'm Mike Scott and today I'm joined by Caragh skipper and Patrick O'Connor as we look back at a game that had last on Match of the Day, written all over it. Okay, hello to you on the day we're recording is Super Bowl day. Just saying, Patrick, how you weren't really that bothered because your team's not in it. You okay?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks.
Good. And Cara, are you over your hangover?
Yeah, although I came home early, so I didn't have a hangover this morning.
Oh, okay. I mean, so Nick was meant to be joining us, but he isn't because of his hangover. Apparently, got to sleep at 5 a.m, even though he sent us a picture of him drinking some kind of IPA at about 10:30 on a boat. So fair play to him.
He was very merry, very merry. He said he had a lovely birthday, so that's all that matters.
Yeah. How old was he?
21, I'm sure.
21. That's interesting because his son's 17, but fair enough. Right, let's just get quickly on to Palace news this week. There wasn't an under-18s game. There was an under-23 games, Patrick. Tell us about it. 4-1.
Wait. Yeah, oh. I didn't know you were going to do that to me,
Sorry, I knew you'd watched it and I knew you were very happy about it, so I thought I'd hit you with it.
Yeah, I did. It was a Monday game. Yeah, Scott Banks. Let's talk about Scott Banks. I know he's been injured a lot this season, which is a real shame because, like Raksaki, I think that he's probably the most ready from 23s to step up, and his free kicks are really, honestly, he can make a career. I honestly believe that just on free kicks. So he's playing really well. Kirby, Nia Kirby's another one. I think that it's unlikely he'll make it to the full team, but I think he's got a chance to make it at a lower level. He's got pedigree as far as under 17s World Cup, but he just hasn't really kicked on, which is a shame. And we didn't send anybody out on loan really from those two, so I'm assuming they're doing that to keep them, pushing ahead. I think they're fifth now in the division. Really good step up from last year, and it was a good game. They actually had a chance to see Victor Akinwale played a little bit. He's been a star on the under 18 side, so I'm like, look at the 23 so far. Great job so far by Paddy.
Yeah, and they've closed the gap to within 1 point, as you say, of fourth place. Spurs, 9 wins so far out of 18. You cannot argue with that. Scott Banks. So just to clarify, there, you're not sure that he would make the first team?
I think the injuries are an issue. Not that he's lightweight; he's not a big kid, but he plays kind of the 10-ish inverted winger type position. Left side, he's a left-foot player, plays on the right side. I just feel that he hasn't really featured as much. Whenever he has featured this year, he's been really, really good. He's scored goals in almost every game that he plays in, but he's been in and out. I've just noticed he's in, and I look around again, he's not in the lineup, which means he's injured again, and he's out. I think he can make it, but he went out on loan last season to a Scottish side, and I think was it Dunfermline? I believe he went on loan to last year, and
yeah.
And I thought this year he'd get like Raksaki appearances on the bench every once in a while, and maybe an appearance here and there, especially during AFCON. And he wasn't around, so I'm a little worried. He's in these early 20s, and I think he's 21 now, so that window's closing for him. So again, I hope he makes it. Again, if he kicks alone, Mike, just make me want to see him play on a regular basis because we don't have a set piece taker like him in the first team. But I just think that his injuries are going to be an issue going forward. But hopefully he'll make it.
Yeah, I think we would have had a further run in the EFL Trophy, in all honesty, if we'd have seen Scott Banks in all 3 games firing on all cylinders. Because from what I've seen of him, he could make that much of a difference. But next year, perhaps. In less good news, though, the women's team played today on the day of recording, the day before Valentine's Day, the day of the Super Bowl, and they lost 5-1 to the Lionesses. That's disappointing. I think they went 4-0 down. There was an own goal. Sitting in 6th. Yes, it's. I think that's probably a tough one to take because that was a real 6-pointer. Now the Lionesses are 4 points 4 points ahead of them with a game in hand, so that's a shame. But I'm sure they will bounce back. Right, let's get on to perhaps a game that was slightly less exciting than either of those games. Brentford. Talk us through the stadium visit. Caragh, please. You've put in the show notes that you felt like you're turning up to a flat viewing.
It did feel like that. So for anyone who hasn't been, it's very handily located right by the stations. That's all good. But it's the first stadium that I've been walking towards, and even as you peel off as the away fans, you can't see any sign of a stadium in front of you because they are just blocks and blocks of flats, and you have to walk underneath like the entrance to the flats to get down the stairs into the stadium. It was very, very bizarre. So Family and I were having a good laugh on the way down that we were actually there to view a flat, and took a wrong turn and ended up in the away end, which is what it felt like, and actually probably would have had more entertainment viewing the flat in the end than had we made it into the stadium as we did. But it was strange. It's a nice stadium. It's quite like cozy. It's obviously like new, not quite as big as I thought it was going to be, but I kind of guess there's lots of restraints in the way for the size they can have. And they've kept quite a good like old style football stadium feel to it, which is nice. It's not massively like corporate feeling or anything like that. So it's good. It's just bizarre. It's just in a strange place, and you just have no idea you're going into the stadium until you're pretty much on the doors.
Well, and there's only 1,600 of us that have been, unless somebody happens to have been to Brentford away for a non-Palace game. So the atmosphere not particularly great either. Is that due to the stadium? Because I don't remember Brentford having a particularly poor atmosphere in the past.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was the stadium. It didn't feel like it was the stadium's fault. They were just so quiet. And we were, bearing in mind, there was 1,600 of us. We were creating a fair bit of noise, as we always do, and everybody was kind of up for it. The sun was out, obviously, for that first half, especially shining right on us. And there was just nothing. We got a couple of verses of "Come on, Brentford," I think. It is pretty much the only chant I heard from their fans. And you looked around and they were just still. They were just all sat in their seats still. So I've got no idea what that was about, if that's a kind of regular thing or if it was an off day for the Brentford fans yesterday. But it was very, very, very quiet.
Well, they've had a rough time of it, haven't they, recently, after a really good start to the season. So probably knocked the wind out of your sails a little bit. The lineup, let's go to you, Patrick. Don't want to be one of those people talking about where Vieira was wrong and being capped in hindsight and stuff, but a quick thought when you first saw it at 2 p.m.
My only real issue, honestly, is the midfield three of Schlupp, Hughes and Gallagher. It just hasn't worked. I understand why he persists with it, because he doesn't have the choices with Maka just coming back and Kouyaté just getting back and Luka not being someone you can really pick. I'd like to know what happened to Gyro, because honestly, I would like to have seen him yesterday. I think we need a passer in there, but what we're really lacking. I know there were questions about Ayew. I had no problem with him starting from the standpoint of he's back from AFCONs a week earlier than Wilf was. Well, actually, same time, but came out as far as wanted to play before Wilf. At least he played like 4 matches in a row, so resting him is fine. And then there's the right back issue. But again, we don't have an option at right back. I mean, I'd totally forgotten that Klein actually played against Man United. That's how long it's been. So could he have played yesterday? Yes. But again, I have no problem with what Vieira tried to do. It just didn't work. I think the onus is really on the players than on who he picked. I mean, those players should have been to beat Brentford yesterday. They just should have been able to, and they didn't.
There's a lot to pick out from that. There was a Twitter thread, and I'm afraid I've forgotten the gentleman's name, and I haven't got it in front of me. He'd asked PV in the press conference,
right, about the lineup.
Why he hadn't selected Elise, and slightly spiky response from Vieira, but to me it was fair enough. I think he justified it pretty well. Elise's still a very young man, and you can't be playing him over and over again. Plus, it does seem that he is doing better as a substitute. Ayew's got plenty of, I know people slag him off, but he's got plenty of, what's the word I'm looking for? Credit in the bank for the last couple of seasons. And I'm with you. I couldn't really argue with him starting. I mean, I've been a big defender of Ward, but he didn't have the greatest game. But again, that's in hindsight, really, and he wasn't the worst defender, definitely, for people underperforming. Let's get into some of the talking points of the game, really. There's not a lot. The first talking point I'd like to say is just how little both goalkeepers were tested. For Brentford, I was just going to say for Brentford, I don't really want to touch on it other than I think Guaita was there when he needed to be. But us not testing the keeper, what was it from the stadium?
So it was frustrating, actually, because I think the first beginning of the game, their keeper looked shaky as hell, and their whole defence looked quite scared. If from where I was sitting right down the front for the first half. So I have to say, watching it back, I got a slightly different view of the first half overall than I did viewing it in the stadium from that position. But from where we were, they looked really, really nervy. And I think had we managed to we did press relatively well to begin with, but I just wanted us to fire balls at them, to be honest. Even if even if at the beginning they didn't have much chance of going anywhere, just really take advantage of how shaky they felt. But instead, we took our time, I think, too much. And like you say, we didn't test them enough. And I think that allowed Brentford to kind of grow in confidence a little bit. So I was disappointed with that, because I really think they were for the taking. That first 20 minutes, half an hour, if we'd have managed to just kind of keep that pressure up and just hit balls at them, I think at some point they would have made a mistake and we would have gone one up.
I mean, it's telling that against the side, and no disrespect to Brentford at all. And I read a headline today from one of their local papers saying that Palace held them to a 0-0 draw. So, I don't think that Brentford necessarily fear Palace in the slightest. But for us to only have 6 shots, and of those, I think a couple were blocked and didn't even make it. That's poor. It's just not good enough. You need to be testing. But 6 shots against anyone, 6 shots against Man City is pretty underwhelming. But to be outshot by Brentford, it's slightly depressing. And as you say, a lack of balls in as well. Who scored has their defenders, really, really high scores. Pinnock getting the man of the match. But that really doesn't tell the whole story. For me, it was a hark back to last season, the season before, when I really thought that it would take a moment of personal skill for us to score. And I haven't thought that the entire season. Slightly against Norwich, but it still looked, I was really surprised we didn't get the seconds. But for us to draw 0-0, it had it written all over it at half time for me. It just, unless it was going to be Elise cutting in or something like that, I just did not see how we were going to score. All I would say is it's the first time that I've thought that this season. I'd love to hear your thoughts, both of you. Let's start with you, Patrick.
Yeah, I agree. And I just think tactically, and again, I want to put it more on the players than on Vieira. We just didn't put balls in behind the way we really should have. If you're going to start Edouard over Mateta and Benteke, what are you looking for? Well, you're looking for to get running behind the defense because he does it better than Mateta and Benteke. So why would he even try it? Makes no sense. I know we had I watched the post match and I saw Anderson was on goal kicks for that exact reason. They felt tactically we can get balls in behind from goal kicks. So why didn't we try that when we were passing the ball between Gahey and Anderson, or when Hughes had the ball, or when Schlupp had the ball, or when Gallagher had it? Why not try a ball, a splitting ball between the 2 centre halves or the 3 centre halves they used yesterday? I don't understand why we didn't try that yesterday. It's very, very strange that we really didn't try to penetrate them, and we had Edouard. So we switched to the second half. We have Zaha up front. We tried it a couple of times, but the truth is we just tactically just set up really poorly. I didn't quite understand it. And you're right, 6 shots against Brentford, even away, is just not good enough.
It's interesting you say that, because I had a look at the heat maps before we came on to discuss this, and I was interested because obviously they play a kind of 5 at the back, 3 at the back setup,
right?
And their defensive 3 have a really high line, so it was very exploitable, and I think it has been exploited by quite a few teams recently. And the preview team talk about their poor record recently,
right.
And I'm just not sure that we're quite set up for that right now, unless because of the fact that IU has to cover Ward at the moment, that's quite. We've only got players that play ball to feet, which is great, and we're really good at it. And against Norwich, it was beautiful to just watch us keep pinging the ball back in. We haven't quite got that skill yet to just destroy them, but I haven't seen a Palace team that can just relentlessly attack like they did against Norwich. But we really don't have that brutally fast break unless it's to feet. And so a team like Brentford playing forward, we're not exploiting it in a way that maybe other teams, even someone like Burnley probably could. And it's tough. I don't know how it looked in the stadium, because it's really hard to tell from a totally legal stream using my Dutch VPN, Caragh.
Well, as I say, in the first half, I was sat right down the front, so it was quite tricky to get that overall view of what was going on. But when I was watching it back today, I think that high line that you talk about, I think we got spooked in that first half because of how often they tried to hit us on the counter. And I think Anderson had a really good game in terms of the amount of times it was like, oh, they're on the counter, oh, Anderson's there. I think he got us out of a lot of trouble. Mitchell had a great game too in that area, and also trying to help us push forward in some way. But I think that's what it was. And I think because we got spooked by that, and I think in everybody's mind is we know that AU was kept on for longer than probably Vieira wanted to keep him on for, because Ward needed that cover. And I think it feels like the whole team at the moment is almost being held to ransom by the question of what we do about Joel Ward. And this is no hating on Joel Ward whatsoever, because we all love him. We all think, there's no beef there, but he's knackered, and he would be, and he has every right to be knackered because he's played, I think, every single game, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not some of the FA Cup ones, but
just the Man United game he missed. That's the only one he was. I think
just right. Right. So he's going to be absolutely knackered, and my worry is that's not going to get better. That's not something that's going to be just give him the confidence boost or whatever. He needs a rest. So that's my worry, is that our whole game plan is at the moment, in my view, being hindered by that we are nervous about Joel Ward being outpaced, and it's just going to keep happening. But I also just wanted to pick up on something that Patrick said as well. I'm so glad to hear somebody else saying that the players need to take responsibility, because we're hearing a lot of people going oh, what's Vieira getting wrong? What's Vieira getting on? But we've been talking also about the first half we're slow, and then the second half they pick up. It's the same players. It's the same players that go on in the first half, and it's the same players that go on in the second half. We don't make changes until at least the 60th minute. So it's all well and good saying, oh, Vieira this, Vieira that, but what are those players waiting for? What are they waiting to happen for them to click into action and do what they know needs to be done? So I think, I think just frustration basically is what it felt like in the stadium, and is what it still feels like now to me, having watched it back.
Yeah, I mean, let's temper that by saying that none of us are particularly pissed off. We've had now 11 draws this season, ridiculous amount of draws. If you look at West Ham, they've lost 8 games this season. They just happen to win a lot. We're there or thereabouts. We're still a few players short, and you got Brentford that are a new. The next season, once everyone's played them home and away, it's probably going to be different. But I think it was a little bit. Vieira could have seen that they play quite far up the pitch and done something about it. But equally, we could have had players that saw through that and did something about it. So, there was way too much moaning on Twitter. People are very angry, but really, it's not. At no point did I think we were going to concede a goal. They only had one decent chance, and Guaita got down very easily and saved it. They're not a particularly threatening side. They're just a very well-disciplined side, and hopefully they do stay up, because I think the Premier League's better for them. But yeah, let's temper the anger, people. Really, I know maybe most of the comments are written during the game or just after the game on Twitter, but it's really not that bad. People talking about us being dragged into a relegation zone. Come on now. There's no need to be doing that. And the one thing that perhaps I don't like to be turning a game based on a refereeing decision, because I'm not Chris Clark. But I see Patrick's got his hand up, and we'll get his thoughts in a sec. But I did want to ask about the 2 refereeing decisions. One for Guy's handball and one for the penalty call for us. So your thoughts succinctly from both of you.
Well, first, I just want to go back real quick, Mike, as a comparison to us versus last season. So last season at this time, we had won 8 matches, drawn 5, and lost 11. We were in 14th place with 29 points. But we had a minus 15 goal difference. Are you going to tell me we're at least one place ahead, we're 3 points behind, but we have minus 3? You're going to tell me this isn't better than last year? I mean,
and the points thing need to temper that, because there's a lot more evenness in the Premier League this season. The lower teams are beating the higher teams. Last season there was some absolute dross. So going about points and saying we're worse off than we were last season, it just isn't comparable for season to season, because last season there was some absolutely terrible teams. It's just not the case this season.
Agreed.
Your thoughts on the penalty decisions, Patrick?
Let's start with the Gahey one. When it first happened, obviously it reminded me a lot of the Leeds penalty, but I thought something was amiss when it first happened, because I was wondering what happened to him, and he was clearly fouled before. So I have no issue, obviously, as a Palace supporter, I have no issue with the fact that it wasn't a penalty, because obviously he was fouled before. Now, the Zaha one I have a major issue with. I do not understand how that's not a penalty kick. I just do not. I was talking to DR, we were doing the match ratings earlier today, and we're talking about anybody else in the top, forget even top 6. I'm watching right now Leicester versus West Ham. If Antonio goes down, it's a penalty. If Daka goes down, it's a penalty. If it's Jota, we saw what happened against us. If it's Harry Kane, because it's Wilf Zaha and the agenda, we saw the agenda based on, the penalty miss against Norwich, and how the idiots were talking about how the worst penalty miss ever, etc., 0 to 0 nonsense. It's an agenda, and it was definitely a foul. I don't understand how it didn't even go to VAR. I don't understand. It just doesn't make any sense. I have no problem with VAR. Honestly, I like it. I think it's a good addition, but the way it's been used in the Premier League is a joke, and it's got to change, because again, the referee, if he doesn't want to call that a penalty, okay, well then let VAR correct his mistake and call it, because that's definitely a penalty in my eyes.
Caragh?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think when you look at, I think it was towards the end of the first half, Zaha was on the break coming down into the corner, and one of the Brentford defenders ran across him, and the ref stopped it and called that a foul from Wilf. And you're looking at that, and then you're thinking, okay, and then in the box, Wilf gets dragged down to the floor, and that's apparently not a foul. It's the lack of consistency, I think, that gets people angry about it. And I think this is an issue with VAR, is that when VAR was brought in, it was supposed to deal with some of this lack of consistency, and actually I think has kind of made it worse. And we're not hearing any of the discussions, we're not being given any kind of reasoning from the referees afterwards, or not tapped into listening to their conversation about why these decisions are being made. And in my view, that makes it worse. The silence just makes it so much worse, because if there is a real reason why that one's being given against Wilf, and then we're not being given the penalty, then let's hear it and let's understand it, and then we can be a part of a broader conversation. But there's just no way that wasn't a penalty, and there's no way also that the who was it? Cano shouldn't have got a second yellow for the time that he pulled somebody else down just before the end of the game. And I think all the way through that game, why I get frustrated is because it's like refs come to Ref Palace and think, okay, we want to play a certain way, so the way that the opposition's going to try and stop us is to kick us, right? Like, we see it all the time. And I think refs, it seems like they come into it and they think, well, I'm just going to have I'm going to have a word, and go easy on the yellows. The way I see it, if you crack down on it right at the beginning of the game, you don't have to deal with any of this nonsense at the end, because you've already kind of laid your marker down. And it just feels like they're always allowed to get away with a lot against us, stop us from playing in the way that we need to play, and then maybe one yellow comes out, but then they know they're going to get away with it for the rest of the game. And players like Wilf, the agenda is so clearly there for Wilf. Even watching Match of the Day last night, Jermaine Gina saying the reason that Wilf didn't get the penalty was because, Wilf's reputation doesn't do him any favours. What? What does that even mean? Like, how can you have done anything that means that a very clear penalty doesn't get given as a penalty because it's the player? Like, you've gone and admitted on TV there that it's because of who the player was that we didn't get that penalty.
Well, no, I never buy that, because Mo Salah is the worst diver I've ever seen at Selhurst, and yet he doesn't have a reputation. So it's almost like because Zaha's black, he gets. Yeah, I let's not get into that, but yeah, from my perspective, the guy who won, massive cricket fan, and that would be one of the situations where umpires call. If it had been if he'd have called it in the first place, would have been happy enough, a little bit annoyed, been annoyed with Gay. The fact that this is exactly what VAR is for. It's for changing a poor decision, and it wasn't. It was the referee's call. So absolutely happy with that, and it should be done more like that. Zaha one just seemed like a penalty, but it isn't VAR's fault, and people going on Twitter about VAR should be scrapped, etc. We saw in the Euros, it works if you've got the right people in the right way, trained properly, doing it.
Exactly.
The Premier League have seemed to have sorted the very worst setup possible, and the worst referees for dealing with it. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. But also, I just want to say we should have beaten Norwich and we should have beaten Brentford because we were better than both of them on the day, and it shouldn't be down to a penalty decision. We should have beaten them in open play. So yeah, I mean let's let because we could go on about that for ages. What I do want to talk about, considering we have somebody with Irish roots on the discussion, Cara.
Yeah, I know where this is going. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was the same for you, Patrick, but Conor Gallagher, the co-commentator, the entire game referred to him as Gallagher, and it really it seemed to start a bit of a Twitter storm. So tell me, is there some reason that Irish names are pronounced that way, and should Conor Gallagher be Conor Gallagher?
No, I'm just going to go with that. I've never heard it pronounced any other way apart from Gallagher. I mean, if he wants to come out and say he wants it pronounced Gallagher, then I'm absolutely 100% behind the boy. But I'm pretty sure that name is Gallagher.
Yeah, I can say a bit like the Andrew Cole situation. If he comes out and says it, fair enough. But I did start a poll at the end of the game yesterday about the real question of the game, whether it should be pronounced Gallagher or Gallagher. Final results: Gallagher 8.9%, Gallagher 91.1 from best part of 250 votes. So I think we'll stick to Gallagher, to be honest. Let's have a quick word about Gallagher. I thought he had a tough game.
Yeah.
Sorry, Patrick. Go ahead. Sam.
Yeah. I just think that he misses having Macca in there. What he's really good at.
Will that happen next week?
No, because we're playing Chelsea and he can't play.
Of course. Sorry.
I wish. Trust me, Mike. I wish it was. But
what if he goes by Gallagher? Maybe we can sneak him in.
That could work. Yeah, but the thing, like I said, he's a box to box. He's much better when he's up there, getting in the box, Brighton, countless games where you see him popping in the box. I just feel that with Schlupp in, and it's not an anti-Schlupp comment. I just feel he just tries to do too much when Schlupp's in the game and doesn't do what he's best at. And I just think that when Macca's in there, Macca's kind of directing him and or helping him, he'll be better off, and that will hopefully happen the game after Chelsea. Please.
Well, depending on Hughes' injury, would Hughes, Macca, and Conor Gallagher be a decent three?
I'd love to see that.
I would too. I was really hoping we were going to see that for a bit yesterday. I think it's a massive shame that that Hughes went off injured and Macca had to come on as his replacement, because I think that is going to be. That's going to change our team quite significantly. I think if those three slot in and we get to see that for a few games. That's
shithousery personified right there, isn't it? Really, that those three, that they're proper. Oh, I'd absolutely love to see that. We'd have to go back and when we were in the midst of COVID and we all said our favourite ever 11s. If we had a few games of those three, I think that would end up being my midfield three, to be honest. Is there any news on Hughes' injury?
I don't think so. I think people were saying yesterday that it was maybe a dead leg. Like, when I was watching the replay of what happened, it was his head that got injured. And as he fell, I think he landed a bit funny on his hip. And I think that's just, I don't know if that was then gave him a dead leg or if there's something more serious that's come from that.
Right.
Well, let's hope. I'd love to see, at the very least, I'd love to see Jimmy Mack and Will Hughes together against Chelsea. A few other things to discuss about the game before we get into listener feedback. Obviously, not a great deal really going on. Jordan Ayew's chance. I slightly differ from everyone else that I saw on Twitter yesterday. Well, 90% of people. And I think the ball's just a bit out wide. And he's not an out-and-out striker. He's not a number 9. He hasn't got that hunger to just smack it in the far left corner. It was a poor chance, but are we're slightly overthinking it just because there were so few chances, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, and he's done that before. He did it definitely early in the season at home, a similar chance. So again, if he's not burying that chance, people are gonna kill him. So it was a difficult chance. Could he have hit it first time? Yes, but Mike, you're absolutely right. He's not a pure striker, and only a pure striker is gonna hit that perfectly into the top, whatever the goalie's right hand side. So difficult chance. He probably should have done better getting on net, but besides that, he's just not going to score that. But again, honestly, besides that, I thought he played actually pretty well, but that one chance sticks out, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, same. So, my quick thoughts on him. As we've mentioned earlier, slightly hamstrung by tracking back a lot. He's not the kind of player that would hit through the laces with that. And you say, as you say, get it top right. You have to be a proper striker for that. So it'd have to be a side foot to the left. It just didn't have the time for it with the ball going across him. I think we're just picking it out because of the fact that there were so few chances. He played all right, and who scored stats say as much. He's played worse this season, although he's played better. Anderson taking the goal kicks. Who's put that in the show docs? That was an interesting one. I don't think it's a reflection on Anderson as much as it's a reflection on maybe Vieira's thoughts on Guaita. But yeah,
I think,
thoughts.
So we were really confused in the stadium when that started happening, and we're like, "Oh my god, don't say that Guaita's going to go off injured or something." But I think, as Patrick mentioned earlier on, Anderson said in his post-match that was kind of what they resorted to try and get in behind Brentford, which I thought was a bit says a lot, not in a good way.
It's not a new thing, is it? Generally, they start short, but it's never Guaita, or it's very rarely Guaita taking it. Right. Whether he's got any weak hamstrings or anything that we don't know about, but it's an odd one. I mean, yeah, if you're in the stadium and you're unsure, then definitely from my VPN, I'm unsure. Do you see it continuing? It didn't seem effective, that's for sure.
No, I don't think it will. I think they literally just run out of options to try and get in behind Brentford. And I think that's what Anderson was kind of saying in his post-match was, I think his words were, "I can kick it really far," which, basically. It's literally what he said, which I was a little bit worried now. Goalkeepers can't kick it really far, but, I guess if you've got someone who can kick it further, like, give it a go. I think it just depressed me a little bit when I heard that was the reason, because I mean, like I say, if we're resorting to Anderson taking goal kicks as our one big tactic to help us get in behind a team, then we're probably not doing that well.
All I would say is if that's Guaita's only weak spot, it was Hennessy's only strong point. So, I'll take that. I was responsible for that in my under-8s Sunday League team because the goalkeeper was absolutely dog shit. I wonder what's happened to him. Maybe he went on to be a professional keeper. Who knows? And one more thing to talk about the game before we get on to some other talking points. Palace fans calling for Elise. What exactly was happening in the stadium? It wasn't the sort of Max Meyer people making the rolling substitute thing towards Hodgson, was it? It wasn't as bad as that?
Not quite, no, but it wasn't particularly subtle. So I think it was just as Brentford were making subs. And I think like a lot of the conversation that I had heard and was a part of in the first half was like, this is going to be great when Elise comes on about an hour in, we've knackered them out. AU's provided that cover for Ward so that he's not completely knackered at the end of the game. Elise can come on, run rings. and it just wasn't coming. So I think when Brentford started making changes, the Palace fans just erupted into the Michael Olise song and just didn't really give up for a few minutes. At which point DR and I turned to each other and went, "Oh no, Vieira's not going to bring him on just because we've done this, isn't it?" But he did in the end. But it was kind of that, I think, was the sign of how frustrated the Palace fans felt in the stadium at that point. Is like, we need something to change here. We need something different. And yeah, kind of started singing to Vieira to try and make it happen.
Yeah, the thing is about that, I think he was going to bring him on because from the television, at least what I saw Olise warming up, and then Hughes gets that injury, and I think that kind of messed everything up. I don't think he had intended to bring on Maka for...
Oh, interesting.
Hughes at that point. Yeah, but as far as Olise as a sub, I tell you right now, there are stats that prove he's much better as a substitute, because I'm looking at it now. He had a goal and assist against West Ham, an assist against Man City, an assist against Arsenal, and a goal against Leicester. As a starter against Newcastle, Villa, Brighton, Liverpool, and Norwich, he only has one assist, and that's a dubious assist because that's what we played to Wolf and that wonder goal on Wednesday. So he's definitely better as an impact sub. At least in the Premier League, he's proven that, and he had started the last 4 games in a row. So I understand people clamoring for the come on, but I just think, like I just said, I think the Hughes injury might have kind of scuppered the chance of taking off Ayew a little bit earlier and bringing on Olise.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think the impact sub thing is, I was saying to Chris Clark before the game, like the starting lineup we had for Brentford, I think if we'd have had that, I mean, you can't tell obviously, but I think if we'd have had that starting lineup and that combination of subs against Norwich, we probably would have won that game. I think we did it back to front at the Norwich game, and then obviously we had different issues at Brentford. But I completely agree with you. I think Olise coming on a sub is the way to go.
Look, if Norwich didn't have such a bobbly pitch, we'd have won that game, wouldn't we? Right, let's get on to an advert for our current sponsors, the excellent Manscaped. Okay, yeah. Make sure you don't pass up that deal. Been sent some Manscaped stuff, and it is pretty life-changing. Right, let's go on to some listener feedback. Start off with some comments on Twitter. Stephen Barton, did you really want to pick up 3 points and end up in the land of mid-table mediocrity that doesn't keep you on the edge of your seat each game? I'll answer that for you, Stephen. Yes, probably, but to be honest, I'm not on the edge of my seat anyway, and I don't think we're going to be this season. A quick one-word answer from both of you. Do you think we're going to be dragged into any kind of relegation battle, Patrick?
No.
Caragh?
No.
Good. You see, positivity, people. Maybe that's because Hambo's not on. Who knows? Leif Anderson's forehead. Corners. Why are we so shit at them at both ends of the pitch? Let's get a quick sentence from both of you on that.
It's just painful. I think at the attacking end of the pitch, I think it's because we have chopped and changed what we're doing going up front so much throughout the season for so many different reasons, that I just don't think we've got sorted what it is that we want to do with corners. I think at the back is a bit more down to our lack of being able to win headers. But I think attacking wise, we're just not quite sure what our best way to attack them is yet.
Defensively, I think we've been fine. I mean, the Virgil van Dijk one aside, I don't think we've given up a corner goal in a while. Going forward, I don't know what's going on. I'm getting frustrated at it. We use Hughes, we use Gallagher, we use Olise. Haven't used Eze that much this year, and Luca in the beginning of it. It's just not been good enough. And I would count. I think we had 8 yesterday, maybe have been more, and not one of them was decent. I mean, not one of them was a chance where we got a decent header or a shot and it was blocked. They were all cleared basically, because I write them down when I'm watching because I'm doing this post-match reaction show after, and they were all cleared first time by Brentford. So we've got to get better. I don't know if we practice them enough or we all practice them and then we get in the game but not doing it properly. But I agree, as far as going forward, we are terrible and have to get better at corners.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I assumed Olise would change things, but who knows whether he's getting to do what he wants or whether he's been defined into a pre-existing plan. We'll see. I do definitely agree though that we've got better on defending him. It's not as bad. My heart isn't in my mouth every single corner.
Right.
I'll go on to this one and answer this one quickly. Mr. Cadbury's Parent, thank you as always. as RU is so poor at shooting and so good at drawing fouls, should he just stop shooting and wait for the foul? He's in certain situations, shooting does suit him. I think when it comes to quick fire, long range shooting, it's not his thing. You know, we've seen some amazing goals from Jordan Ayew, but the refereeing inconsistency recently, why wait for the foul? Because there was just as much chance you're not going to get it and made to look like an absolute idiot. So it's a tough one, but everyone expected him to have a crack yesterday. I just don't think it's his strong point. There's other situations where he'd put one, chip one over the keeper or something. So that just isn't his game. Jimmy Dawsey 16. The whole of the referees' union agenda against Wilfried Zaha is getting beyond a joke now. I actually think this season it's not been as bad as others. Quick thoughts from you both, Patrick?
It's definitely not as bad, but it's still not very good. I mean, I could do a whole show on agendas against Wilf about people moaning about why is he so moany. But if you were a footballer and didn't get calls you thought you should get, I don't think you'd be running around the pitch smiling the entire time. So, again, I think it's not as bad this year. I agree, but it's not very good.
Yeah. I mean, it just comes down to the fact that you've got officials that are nowhere near as fit, and they weren't professional footballers trying to work out what Wilfried Zaha's doing, and they just don't know. Greg Eggs. That's another egg-related name. Excellent. Our performances of late have been lacklustre, and we're stuck in a rut. Vieira needs to change things up, e.g. try something other than 4-3-3 with pretty much the same lineup every game. We give him credit for doing it early in the season, so why has he stopped? Caragh?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like sometimes we forget how many at different points we've had different players out this season and how well we've dealt with that. Like, I think in previous seasons we've gone into that like time period where we've got loads of people out at once. But if you think about it, we've had like one key player here or there out for one reason or another. And it's just, I think that's catching up with us at this point in the season, where I think I said in the last pod, like, we've got all of these puzzle pieces that would be great if we can just work out how to put them all together. So we just have to keep plugging away and keep trying to find out how these combinations work, but not forgetting that we have had quite a few of those key players out, and it does take time, and it is going to take time for players to click with each other and to work out each other's best. So yeah, I don't know. I sense a little bit of Vieira criticism in that, which is fine to kind of, criticise him a bit, but I think we do just need to keep having a bit of patience and not have the expectation that we're going to have a dream team overnight.
Yeah, fair. I mean, he's only had 2 transfer windows. I will temper that by just saying I'm absolutely pro PV. I think he's underutilised Eze a little bit recently, and I think that Patrick was right earlier to say that Schlupp isn't right in this 3, although that's 2 managers in a row that absolutely love playing Schlupp, so maybe they know something that we don't. Patrick, one for you. Unpopular opinion, Gallagher has been poor for weeks now. England call-up has ruined him. Thoughts from Andy the Twat?
I would say that, but again, I really believe it's more the Macca loss than the England call-up. Now, you could say that because I've always thought in the past when a Palace player gets called up to England, it's never going to be a good thing. Either their form drops off or they get tapped up and end up leaving the season after. So, but I think in this case, it's more the way we're playing and him trying to do too much without Macca than the England call-up, but hopefully I'll be proved correct when Macca returns. Yeah,
and I mean, let's not forget now that we're pretty much definitely only got, 14 games left with Gallagher, so we've got to find solutions without him anyway.
Exactly.
Charlie Sheen, presumably not that Charlie Sheen.
The Charlie Sheen. Yeah.
The Charlie Sheen. What a man. Absolutely batshit. We looked more... What's he done? Have I missed out? Has he said something horrific?
No, I'm watching the West Ham game, and it was a handball goal, and they're giving it as a goal, and I don't understand that's not a handball. I'm just...
I thought you said I'm going to let that go. I thought you meant that I'd been complimentary about Charlie Sheen.
I do think he has done some dodgy stuff though, but I don't want to say it on a podcast.
Very dodgy stuff, by the way, Charlie Sheen, but let's not get into that.
Yeah, so I think the initial "we're going to let that go" probably stands.
Excellent. Well, I mean, I have the worst taste humour in the history of existence, so probably not the one to talk to. We looked more dangerous when we played Benteke with Edouard off him at the start of the year. Should we look at a 4-3-3 with Benteke at the spearhead? How do we get the attacking forces to gel? A lot in that, Charlie. Caragh, try and...
Yeah, I mean, I think if we knew the answer to that, we'd see it on the pitch, right? If anyone had the answer to that. I do think yesterday I was thinking, should Benteke have had some time to come on? I felt like some of the very few balls that we were whipping into the box.
For who?
Huh? Sorry?
Who would he have replaced?
Maybe coming on instead of Mateta coming on, but then at the same time, obviously, Mateta's the one that's been in form, so I don't have a really strong feeling about it. But I was thinking yesterday, this feels like maybe a game that Benteke could have impacted a bit. But I think the issue is that we've got a lot of different options, and until we work out what we're doing with Joel Ward and what we're therefore then doing with midfield, that I think is going to dictate what our best situation is up front. And I think until that does get resolved, we are just going to have this, how do we compensate for what's going on behind the attack with the people at the front, if that makes sense. I don't know if we're allowing our attackers to do their best jobs that they can do at the moment without sorting out the issues on the rest of the pitch.
Yeah, I think we've covered that, and we'll finish off with TJ Rado. What an excellent name! Hi guys, from me. I think we covered this, but does Schlupp, Hughes, and Gallagher work as a midfield three? I think we've agreed no, but we'll get your thoughts in a sec, Patrick. Needs a CDM of Kouyaté. I mean, Kouyaté's still swimming in champagne, so he's not going to care right now. But Gyro or Luca allows the other two more freedom. Vieira's quite stubborn. Thoughts on that, Patrick?
Well, I'm not going to do that last comment. I don't think he's stubborn. You have to take a look at the options he's had. Again, I'm not going to comment on Gyro because I don't know what's going on. Has he been ill? Did he have COVID? Is he not playing well? So we take him out. Luca, we all saw Luca when he was in there, and Luca just not mobile enough to play in there. So you just talk about Kouyaté swimming in champagne. He just got back. He wasn't available. Maka wasn't available. So to be honest with you, he only really had Schlupp, Gallagher, and Hughes fit for the last 5-6 games. So I don't know what else he could have done. Again, would I like to see Gyro in there? Obviously. Luca, for me, honestly, I was a big fan until recently with some comments he made about, I won't get political, but about Djokovic and the whole vaccine stuff. So I'm off the Luca bandwagon. I've been on it for about 2-3 years when people were killing him. So I just don't see the choices that Vieira had. I don't think Vieira's been stubborn. I think Vieira's done with the best he could. I want to add one thing, though. It's funny how I think our back line, Ward side, has been our most consistent all season, which is good to see. I think that kind of tells us our goal difference, etc. But I definitely think that our midfield three and our attacking three have to be worked out. But we have so many options. I think it's going to take time for Vieira to figure out who his best six are ahead of that back four and the keeper. So I have no problem what he's doing. It's going to take time. It's his first season. It's 24 matches in. I'm not going to go crazy until, worrying about what he's done because I think he just needs time.
Definitely.
Yeah, agreed. If this game happens again in 12 months' time, let's talk.
Exactly.
Right, let's get to some forward reviews. Thank you for sending them all in. Absolutely loads as usual. Start with you, Cara.
So Kira Brody on Instagram said, looked like Roy's team.
Oh,
a bit harsh.
Kira.
A bit harsh.
Patrick.
Kaz_Baz on Instagram. Ward had a nightmare.
There was one particular header from Ward that, yes, definitely aged about 3 years. Devin at Mendy_9. Jimmy Mack is back. Yes, big one to take from the game, definitely.
Lalitha has said, glad I went shopping.
Fair enough.
Imran at Mitri Run. Bring on Elise earlier.
NY Eagle, better point than Norwich. Interesting. Okay.
Paul at Barkers of Croydon, or Croy. I'm assuming the rest of that is done if he could have fit it in, but you never know. No Benteke yet again. Palace
Ash at Palace Scout. When's next season starting? That is so harsh.
Oh, come on, Ash. Come on. Positive mental attitude. We've got 14 games left. And then we got pre-season. We got John Texas sides. We could be in Far Fargo in pre-season. Don't be talking about next season yet. Mike Deacon, 4-2-4 next week, please. I think that's dependent on the cover for the flanks again. To be honest,
Keith Seri getting close to worrisome.
Keith, come on now. It's all good. It's all good.
We just need to remember we're going to win the FA Cup. Everything's going to be fine.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Simon Denegri at S Denegri, yet to really click.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I mean, when it really clicks, we's going to look good. Lee Munden, need to score more goals. Sorry, I've read that wrong. need to score goals.
I also really enjoyed that one, just for the pure. Yeah, we always need to score goals. Anyway, Jevons, toothless but defensively resolute.
Fair.
Aidan McD at Aidan McDonough1. I follow him on Twitter, by the way. You'd swear we lost.
Yeah, fair enough. Good point, Aidan.
Yeah.
Love, cowardice, depravation. I don't understand. So at Stuart Cox, sorry, Stuart, that's way above my mental capacity. But no Kieran attacking play. Yeah, I think probably have to agree with you on that.
Yeah. Ben Agbamoni says Palace lack clinical edge.
I can't even say that name.
Yeah, I'm glad that fell to you, to be honest, Patrick.
Is it Fatumosh at Bella by? Oh, I'm not reading that part. I know what that one part says. Go for the win. I know the last part, but I'm not reading that part.
I think they did, yeah. And the same way against Norwich. I think they were trying their hardest, and I really did think we'd get one against Norwich. Maybe less sure than this, but Boyce Drew, will we ever win? Yes, against Watford on Tuesday.
Oh, well, that's jinxed it. Thanks, Mike.
Oh shit! No, it's Chelsea first, isn't it?
It's the week after, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's still against Watford. Still against Watford.
Lopez says, shit ref, poor performance.
Fair enough.
And Ebo at Ebeling_J, and I agree with this 100%. Twitter negativity hits peak.
Yeah, I mean, Ebo's... He's really wrong, isn't he? Just a shout out to Darren Bland as well, who did a 54-word forward review. So. Cheers, Darren.
Not to say.
He were angry. Right, thank you for listening to the show, and thanks in particular to everyone who got in touch today. We read them all. We can't use them all. I'm trying to use as many as we can. Everything we get in, it helps us to create the show. So it's appreciated. Keep them coming. It shows that we know people are listening, caring, not just having us on in the background on Spotify where they're in some Zoom meeting. Preview team will be back with you in the week to look ahead at Chelsea on Saturday. I'm probably going to be in the Green Dragon again with you before the game, Cara, I'm guessing?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Good. So whoever wants to join, feel free. As ever, plenty more content for you across our social accounts and a wealth of live and recorded shows for you over on YouTube, including instant match reaction. I think you were involved in it yesterday, weren't you, Patrick?
I was, and I always am.
Yeah, good. And a chance to get involved. If you want to get in touch, just send them over a message on the YouTube channel. Find us on everything by searching Back in the Nest. Like, subscribe, and be merry. If you can leave us positive reviews on your pod app, that would really help. Or just share the words. All helps with the algorithms with the reviews, but otherwise, just get people to subscribe on YouTube. And then tell DRY he's been miserable this week and he's too much of a downer. Until next time, come on, you Palace.